Now I go to the very beginning of the book. Did you know that the Bible actually talks about baseball? In the Bible, it actually talks about baseball. It's in Genesis 1:1, and it says, in the big inning. Genesis 22, 1 through 13. We're almost there. This is an easy book to find. Chapter 22, starting at verse 1. Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, or as they do in the movies, Abraham. And he said, here I am. Then he says, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. I can't pronounce that right. And offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac, his son, and he split the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place after off, meaning he saw the place in the distance. And Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. The lad and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you. So Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, my father. And he says, here I am, my son. Then he said, look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So the 2 of them went together. Then they came to the place of which God had told him. And Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order, and he bound Isaac his son and laid him on. Just for a second. And laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He says, here I am. And the angel said, do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him for now. And do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Then Abraham lifted his eyes, and looked, and there, behold, was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. So Abraham went and took the ram, and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, "The Lord will provide." As it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. So, okay, I know that's kind of long, but Abraham was about to slay his son and God stopped him. I could have said that in 10 seconds, but I want to read it from the scripture itself. But Abraham was about to slay his son. He lifted his hand and God told him to not do anything to his son. Okay? Even though Abraham was tested by God with something as big as sacrificing his only son to God, Abraham did not fear, Abraham did not fear. Did not fear nor even question God. Question is, or didn't even question God. Well, question is why? Because he knew that God could even raise the dead. So Abraham knew that if God could raise the dead, that God was going to do something with his son. Okay? So he didn't fear. He didn't say, why God this and that. He just took the wood, took his son, took the knife, built the altar. He laid it all out. He laid his son on the altar. He bound him to the altar and was just about inches away from slaying his son when God stopped him. Now, Abraham went through a test. Okay? But Abraham passed. And again, I got the two little ovals with yes and no and question and a check mark in yes. But Abraham passed the test. One of the biggest tests Abraham had to go through, but he passed it. Our second scripture is Job 1, chapter 1, verses 13 through 22. And it's not Job. When you go for a interview, you don't go for a Job interview. And then when you read the Bible, you read the book of Job. You go for a job interview. When you read the Bible, you read the book of Job. So we're going to go in Job chapter 1, 13 through 22. So let's go to Job. Let's go to one of my favorite books, Job. And the first chapter is one of the greatest chapters there is. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. Where are you at? I forgot if it's new or old. There we go. It's the Old Testament. Just found it and it passed right up. We're going to Job chapter 1. And it's 13 through 22. So chapter 1, starting at verse... Where are we at? Verse 3. Wait a minute. Starting at verse... My eyesight's going really bad these days. Starting at verse 13. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them when the... Sorry if I can't pronounce these words right. When the Sabins raided them and took them away. Indeed, they were killed, the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. I'm the only one that escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, the Chatelains formed 3 bands, raided the camels, and took them away. Yes, and killed those servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another also came to him and said, Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Then Job arose, tore his robe, and shaved his beard, and fell to the ground, and worshipped. And fell to the ground and worshipped. I'm going to keep going for a second. And he said, Naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. He said, Blessed be the name of the Lord. And all this Job did not sin, nor charge God with wrong. So, Job lost everything. Lost his house. First off, he lost his livestock. His donkeys, his camels, his sheep. Even lost his children in his house, lost his family. Satan's like, okay, God, I guarantee you if I take everything away from Job and give him absolute nothing, I guarantee you he will deny you. So God let him. What happened? Here are my comments for that one. So, Job, chapter 1, 13 through 22. Job lost everything, even his children. But Job did not sin at all. He did not charge God with wrong for doing any wrong. He did not once swear or use any foul language at all. In fact, he fell on his face and he worshipped God. Okay? He fell on his face and he worshipped God. He said, look. He said, naked I come from my mother's womb, naked I shall leave. He said, God giveth and God taketh away. He said, blessed be the name of the Lord. Okay? At the end, sorry. He said, blessed be the name of the Lord. And all this, Job did not charge God with any wrong. So he said, blessed be the name of the Lord. He went through think about this. Job went through everything. Job went through hell. You ever heard the expression, I went through hell? Job was one person in this entire world besides Jesus Christ that actually went through hell. He lost absolutely everything. Not one stitch of anything. The only thing left there was his land. But I guarantee when the fire of God came down from heaven, that land was burnt up too. Now it's dead. So Job lost everything, including his children. Not once did he do anything or sin in any way. Think about it. What's the first thing you do when someone goes down the road and they cut you off? You mother scratcher, why I oughta. The first thing comes out of your mouth or anyone's mouth when they're frustrated or mad is the fact that, well, you mother scratcher, and they just want to, curse up and down at somebody because they're mad at them. Now, doesn't mean to say that everyone in the world is like that. Not everyone is. I mean, there are people out there who are, not everyone is, but the first thing that comes out of anybody's mouth is always they get mad at someone, you mother scratcher. But Job did not once do anything like that. He fell to his face and he worshiped God. He says, naked I come out of my mom's womb. Naked I shall leave. The Lord giveth and taketh. And he also said, blessed be the name of the Lord. So no matter what, when Satan said to God, I take everything from Job, I guarantee he will dishonor you. Job did not once dishonor. He didn't even say, God, why did you do this? God, you wrong. God, this. No, he said, blessed be the name of the Lord, even losing everything. I mean, the only person left in his family